welcome everyone to the IM Tech Meetup. This month we're going to be talking about something really good and special. So let's go on to the next slide to say what that is. So this month we're going to be talking about women in tech, and we've got some fabulous speakers here. And I'm just going to be introing this currently, and then I'm going to leave it to the speakers, which are going to be great. So yeah, so welcome to the IM Tech Meetup, and this one is in June 2022, and it's about women in tech. So quick thing about the IM Tech Meetup is the fact that we've got two sponsors, Backend and MNT Digital. So we're really privileged to have those. And a quick thing about myself. I am Ilesh Mistry, and I'm a CMS specialist and a content MVP. If you would like to, contact me, there's some details on the right-hand side, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel where this will be recorded and shared as well at some point soon. A little bit about the IM Tech Meetup. So generally, they're front-end driven topics we have on there, and sometimes we have variations that we have like today, which is really good and useful for the community. And generally, what I do is obviously, if you want to know more about them, you can obviously follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter to find out more details. And if you ever want to speak on a future meetup or know someone else that wants to speak at them, just let me know, and then we can try and factor them in. Because sometimes what happens is I can tailor a particular topic for particular speakers as well. So it's not the case that things are being set in stone. So next one. So one thing about one of our sponsors is Backend. They build digital experiences without compromise, and it's basically a headless CMS that allows you to build websites in a fast and easy way with any technology that you want to be using. On the right-hand side, you get two sort of QR codes. One is allows you to do a 90 days free trial if you're ever interested in that. And also there's a Discord channel for their community, so hit them up as well. And they also are recruiting. So basically, if you're interested, like anywhere else, everyone else is recruiting, I think, these days. But if you're looking to change careers or looking at a different opportunity out there, then use that QR code on the right-hand side to look at some opportunities. Next up, the other sponsor we have is MNT Digital, who I work for. They're basically a digital consultancy and trusted delivery partner using technologies to build a better future. So, they've had, we focus on design and build, accessibility, sustainability, composable products, lots of stuff that we kind of do. And again, there's a QR code on the right-hand side if you want to know a little bit more about them. And like everyone else, we are also recruiting. So we've got front-end, back-end, server-side, technical architects, remote, specific locations as well. So, have a look at the QR code and let me know if you're interested. So back to the meetup. So before we get started, when the sessions are happening, it would be good to just pop your questions in the chat, and then we can answer them towards the end. There'll be like a small Q&A at the end, so we can, after each session, we can do. Even though I kind of mentioned it at the start, but we are recording this event, so just bear that in mind. And the recording will be shared. So even if you have to kind of drop off or people join late, we'll share the recording at some point, and then you can catch up later as well. If you can, it would be great if you can kind of use the social media handles to kind of do any tweeting or sharing. And if you want to actually win some merch that I am modeling here and have a water bottle, but I'm not using it right now. But if you want to win some merch, then what you can do is get that QR code on the right-hand side. That will allow, it's not even a competition, it's just really some form to fill in. But once you're in there, then you have a chance to win this merch, and basically we'll do a random kind of selection at some point to get that in. So, and I'm sure everyone loves merch. So, to the agenda, what we've got is basically a fabulous set of speakers today. And first up will be like Pratim talking about a sneak peek into the world of backend. And then we've got Monica. She'll be talking about 3 lessons from the world of business or B2B SaaS marketing. And then we've got Agnes talking about learning in public and tech communities, which will be really good, useful as well, especially because it's a community thing that we're doing here. And then Katherine will be talking about getting started as a digital project manager, which will be useful as well, because one of the great things about this meetup is that we've got a variation of topics. And lastly, we've got Anna, who's going to be talking about her first months as an engineering director, which is going to be fabulous. I know she's got other stories about swapping from officer singer to developer as well. So probably there'll be some questions at some point about that as well. So without me rambling on too much and using the time up, I'm going to pass over to Pratim. Are you ready, Pratim? And then I can stop sharing. If you're on mute, the usual thing, isn't it?
Can you see me?
We can. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know why that is like it. The moment I turn on my camera, it does say that it shows it for a minute and then it just stops. Let me just try to switch off the background effects thing.
No worries. Yeah.
Yeah, I think can you, yeah. So apologies. First, I'm actually taking this meeting and call from my kitchen because my room is under renovation. So there's going to be a little bit of voice also. So I hope that's okay, and you folks forgive me for that.
That's perfectly fine. I'm in the kitchen as well with two boys in the background, so hopefully they won't make too much noise. But yeah, over to you. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes. First of all, I'd really want to thank Ilesh for creating this platform where we support. There's more support for women in tech, and women in tech coming up and talking more about what they're doing in their journeys in their career. Because I feel this is something that, as much as we do, it's still less. We still need a lot of efforts in terms to making sure that it's an equal playground for everyone in this industry. But yeah, it's good to see that things are changing. And to give an idea about today's talk that I'm talking about, this was majorly it's majorly focused towards folks who build more majorly on the front end part, and I won't say scared, but decide not to do the backend part because they are not comfortable with backend. A quick bio about me is I worked as a backend developer for more than 2 years. After that, which I took up I was developer advocate for good time, and then before this job, I took up the role as VP growth in another startup, and now currently I am with nhost working as developer advocate. What at nhost we are a backend as a service platform where we are a completely open source platform which makes sure that any application that you're building has a robust and scalable backend to your product. It's I would really love if you folks just go and check it out. Let me know what you think about it, and if you're building your next application, would be happy to help you out to set up the backend. Yeah, so that's a brief back a brief detail about bio about myself, and I'll quickly get started with what I have today. Let me just share my screen. Just a minute. You want to see a lot of tabs open because that is what it is. Yep. I hope. Is my screen visible?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Just a minute. Yeah, I was just sharing with people how I am extremely bad at making presentations, but please do not judge me on my presentation skills. Yes. So yeah, today's topic, as Ilesh also mentioned, is about getting a sneak peek into the world of backend. I am majorly focusing towards it from a beginner level in terms of explaining what consists of a backend, and when you need to have a backend, and sometimes it's literally okay to not have a backend for an application when there's not a lot of processing happening. So yeah, let's get started. And I think this is already what I've mentioned. I work as a developer advocate with nhost, and this is our GitHub repo. If you could go and drop us a star, that would be really, really special for us, because it's always good to have support from the community. And yeah, let's get started with the major thing that I've noticed is everyone literally the more highest amount of memes are created with backend developers. And though there's this whole concept around how backend development is extremely tough, it requires a lot of time. To be honest, I would personally think that for me front end has been a major issue. And we recently had this a quick competition back in our office where we asked our developers, our backend developers, to center a div, and then we asked half of them to fire up our backend. And we noticed that it was quicker to fire up a backend than to come up with the most perfect piece of code to center a div, like without googling. That was a fun task. But yeah, so I just wanted to break this whole notion around backend development, which says that okay, it's very complicated, there are a lot of different concepts to it, which is true. But if you break it down, I think it's a very good what do you say, it's for most importantly, it's one of the things that is very equally important today. And every application needs to have a good backend. So if you're one of those who's looking forward to taking up like being a backend developer, I think this is a good time to be in backend development. So yeah, these are just some memes around backend. I found them funny and at the same time a bit sad, but yeah, I hope you find them funny too. Cool. So, what exactly is a backend and when do you need it? This is something that we keep hearing the word backend like as a not as a jargon, but being used everywhere. But what exactly is it? Where does it sit? And why is it needed? So, I'm going to explain it in terms of. I know that we also have a sponsor who is into CMS. So I think in terms of a blog, it's very easy to let's understand what is a backend in terms of an example of a blog that you're reading on an article that you're reading on a blog. So if the blog was just some links where it was redirecting you to some another website, then maybe there is nothing that has to be pulled from. There is nothing that the website or the application has to restore or get from the server, right? In that case, you would never require a backend. You can easily just have a static web page and you can put in all the links to it, and yeah, you're ready to go with your blog. But when the data that is coming onto this blogs is stored somewhere else, is stored on another server, and every time you update a blog, you need something new to come up. I think that's when a backend comes into picture. And basically what it is something that sits between the user and the application who is trying to use it. What the word backend is like a mixture of a lot of smaller concepts, right? So you can think of database coming into picture, hosting, the complete architecture, analytics, authentication, and a lot of other things which completely make it into a backend stack. Yeah. So so this is just to give you an idea about how a backend stack can look like. Now this is our backend stack, the backend stack that we at nhost use. So when it comes to database, we decided to go, because we are majorly into open source, we decided to go with Postgres. Now you could also have a database with another type of system that you prefer, be it no data, no SQL, or MongoDB. But because we decided this is the data stack that we decided to go ahead, and how this has been working for us. So another thing that comes into a major part of backend is having microservices and having your API structures. Now, what are API structures and where do you need it? So when we spoke about having a database, you need some way to query the data, to pull the data in a format which is very, very convenient to that particular function that you're trying to do. So basically, if you want to retrieve the data if you want to retrieve on that particular button click, you want to get the information of a particular user. So this behind that button, it will be a link to your backend. It will be an API that will be created, which will only send you the data points about that user, and it won't send you everything. So when you create APIs, you basically architect them in a way that it gives you only the data that you require and you want. Another thing that you have is when it comes to authentication, right? Now, any application which has a lot of users requires different set of levels of authentication, be it if the application belongs to me and I have a set of people who also use the application as organizers, so then they have another level of permissions, whereas the users have another level of permissions. So that all of that comes under authentication, which is also again handled by a backend service, where there will be different key sets going in, there will be different kinds of security measures going in to make sure that only the set of people who are allowed to log in can log in. And lastly, yeah, storage is something that is very important when you want to build applications which can hold your data in terms, and also retrievable in another time. For example, if you're building an Instagram for people above the age of 80, or if you're building something cool which requires you to pull up images, which requires you to do a lot of analytics on the kind of data that they're filling. So storage is one thing where is a part of the database that you is a part of the backend stack that you will absolutely have to include. Yeah. And so now that we've spoke about the basic concepts around what is into the backend, and this is how backend has been going on for ages. But recently we have come up with this new concept known as serverless, right? So what is serverless, and why everyone today is choosing serverless, and why I think it's a good thing for you to even check out and make sure, decide that your next application should be built serverless. But first, let's understand what is the other kind of acronyms that are used for serverless. So I think you must have always heard backend as a service, BaaS, or be it function as a service. What happens here is, rather than having your normal and traditional server, now that cloud has come into picture, we make sure that all this processing and all the work, heavy loading of the backend happens on the cloud. So when you literally push your authentication, your database and everything for someone else to take care of, and you just use them as a service, that's when you call it a serverless backend. So the traditional way of it would have been for me to set up an SQL database on my laptop, then create and host for it, then host it somewhere on some hosting platform. But now what you do is you just use a service, like for example nhost. Now with nhost, what you would do is literally just sign up and just use the basic SDK to connect with your application, and in a single click you will have all of this already being set up for you by someone else. So you don't have to take care of the organizational part, or you don't have to take off the overhead, and you can explicitly completely focus on the logic of your application. So this is something that has been very prevalent in the last, I think, almost more than 5 years. Serverless has seen the day and is here to stay for a long time. So yeah, if you have any questions about serverless, or in terms of how backend service works well, please let me know. I would be happy to answer them. Yeah, and finally, to give a basic overview about where backend sits and where front end sits, and how the big picture looks. So this is a diagram which I've taken from our website, which talks about what you see and what is behind and what is further behind it. So in terms of a front end developer, if you're, for example, if you're good at front end, you majorly take care about the user interface, and you take care about the client side logic. And when you're using a serverless platform, when you're using a BaaS, that is backend service, everything else that is required in terms of database management, cloud storage, be it user authentication, the notifications that come to you, and even the hosting, everything, including security, performance, and all of that, is being taken care by that service. So you see, there is this shift of doing everything by yourself to being a lot of things being taken care by someone else, which again falls under the complete bracket of software as a service. Yeah, and that's majorly my quick talk about what backend is, and what are the different things that we've been doing with backend. Yeah, I'm open to questions now. If anyone has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. That's it from my side. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, Pratim. Are there any questions? I don't know if somebody was on. Okay, any questions? No? Okay, thank you, Pratim. It's really useful, and to see the difference between front end and back end as well. Thank you for presenting. So next up, we've got Monica. Monica, just give us a chat when you're ready.
Hi there.
Hey.
All right, I'll also get my screen set up here. All right, are you able to see my slides here?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So thanks so much for having me today. Hey everyone, my name's Monica, and I am the Director of Product Marketing at Content by Kentico. So a little bit about me from a personal side, as this is a meetup and tech event. I am an American, and I've been living in Prague, Czech Republic since 2011. A little bit of a globetrotter, was raised in Atlanta and Tokyo, London, and Frankfurt, and have a lot of different disparate interests. So I have my undergraduate degrees in advertising and Spanish literature from the University of Georgia, and did my master's in media and communications at the London School of Economics. In my spare time, I guess I would describe myself as a little bit of a bookworm, frequenter of parks and concerts, and I have way too many photos of flowers on my camera roll. If you live in Prague, you definitely have a lot of opportunities. So today I wanted to bring a little bit of different perspective maybe to the tech meetup and share my experiences after a decade in B2B and SaaS marketing. I've had a really, I would say the absolute pleasure of working with some really cool, interesting companies over the years, such as CloverDX, enterprise data management platform, Social Bakers, an Amplify company, social media marketing suite, and customer experience platform, and now working for Content by Kentico. So we're the headless CMS for both marketers like me and developers, so we can plan, create, and publish omni-channel content to connect with our audiences across digital. So for me, I have some great lessons over the years that I'd like to share, specifically related to my role in product marketing. So I have an image here of what product marketing may look like. Don't be scared of this image. I don't think I'm the center of the universe. It's just here to show you that we spend a lot of time working and collaborating with every single team, really in an organization every single day. And for me, it's really exciting to work with product, work with marketing teams, sales teams, and customer success teams. Whether we're designing marketing new campaigns or creating sales enablement collateral or participating in planning go-to-market product launches, for me, the most exciting thing about product marketing is the amount of learning and insights we get from our incredible, talented organization, the collaborations that we get to experience together, and being that, I guess, central unifier of all of these teams, so we can all be motivated and move towards the same goal together. And I wanted to talk a little bit about one of my favorite parts of working in product marketing during product launches, and that is the definition of a value proposition and pulling that document together. So for those of you who might be more new to the marketing side of things, a value proposition really is that central document that helps align internal stakeholders on the benefits of your product. So that may sound simple. So what actually goes into a value proposition for launching B2B SaaS products? The long answer is ahead of us. So there's a huge research element that goes into it. So researching key trends and opportunities. We want to do, market validation, understand what the analysts are saying, analyze data insights and product usage. We want to, of course, make sure we're listening to our customers' needs and pain points. So this can be through customer interviews, getting persona and job insights, looking at marketing search data, getting invaluable feedback from your field teams, or doing win-loss analysis. And then, of course, you want to solve those customer pain points. So this is the point of time where you're going to be aligning these use cases and these pain points with specific feature sets of your product. And this is where you start building meaningful positioning and developing your product story. You also need to spend some time differentiating your solution. And for me, this is also means about owning your own weaknesses. So building messaging, doing claims tracking, and competitive objection handling. We're not here to say that we're the only product, for example, on the market that will suit your needs, but what is our fit, and are we, perhaps a better fit for specific reasons, even if we don't solve 100% of the problems 100% of the time. No software will really do that for you. And lastly, we can talk about how great our product is till we're blue in the face, but the most important thing is getting that support from your champions. So customer references, case studies, ROI calculators, really understanding how other users are benefiting from the product, and making sure that all of this is captured in a single comprehensive document that all teams can benefit from. So for me, I wanted to share what a good value proposition should actually do, and it should touch everything you do and really help all teams during maybe a stressful but exciting time that is a product launch. So marketers can use it to create consistent messaging, tailor messaging by industry, and write new blogs, develop customer success stories, craft websites, landing pages, webinars, and craft better email copy, and create that sales collateral for sales teams, whether that's videos or slides or supporting meaningful demo paths. Sales and customer teams will use a value proposition as their source of truth, so they can actually have more resonating conversations with specific personas. Talking to a business user will be quite a bit different than talking to someone in the technical team, for example. This allows them to engage in value selling and not feature selling. Feature selling really focuses on the company, not focusing on the customer and what their pain points are. It allows them to also demo the product solution in a focused way, not, showing every single feature, bam, 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 but really taking them through a story that resonates with them and solving their specific problems so that they have that aha moment with your product. They also use that document to handle objections about competitors that come up, because they always do. People aren't just evaluating your software in a vacuum. They are looking at it as at a range of choices. And lastly, from customer team side, they'll help customers adopt new solution sets into their current workflow. So why change things up that's working if a new feature set comes along? And lastly, you'll have product teams being able to use it to, for example, give context to development, enhance product differentiators, improve the user experience, stay close to competitive threats, and also inform the product vision. This is an exciting time. Once you get the product document or value proposition document all set, you really hope it cascades to every single thing that you do, because that internal alignment really is felt externally at every single customer touch point. So I have two examples of how I use value propositions to create value-based product marketing content. So one of them is an example of a product blog that's focused on how educational institutions will use content headless CMS. Educational institutions will have, probably quite a bit different problems than, insurance companies or healthcare providers. So we don't want to share the exact same message about content and its value as a headless CMS to everybody. A blanket message doesn't really resonate. So we want to make sure we're resonating and with educational institutions and solving their problems, which would be, many different types of visitors to the site, content consistency, super trustworthy information about course catalogs, or can you hear me okay? Great. And then another example of a value-based product marketing piece of content is we do quarterly release wrap-up. So all of the features that were shipped in the previous quarter, we put them into a blog. Instead of creating a super long list of everything that we've created, we group specific feature sets into value stories. So over the last quarter. Yeah, I wanted to say how with a product update blog, it's not about just sharing all of the features that have been released, but really contextualizing them into value stories. So this past quarter, it was really about sharing the idea of content consistency and helping marketers with their day-to-day content creation. by easing the burden on these memorizing or understanding the little tiny details that make content creation a little bit more frustrating sometimes. So why did I share with you the process of defining and using a value proposition for a Women in Tech meetup? I wanted to be a little cheeky and share with you how you can define, or how I define, my professional value proposition working in tech. So to close the presentation, I wanted to share a few ideas of the framework you can use. You can apply it for a product launch, or you can apply it for your professional life. But first, you need to discover what motivates you. So how do I discover what motivates me? Always be learning, validate what's true, and adapt to change. Just like understanding market insights, you really need to understand internally the projects and challenges that motivate you. And same with developing value propositions over time. As feature sets grow and evolve with each new sprint that comes along, you want to maybe adapt to change and update that value proposition document as well. What motivates me is also understanding whose pain points can I ease and how. So working super cross-functionally with different teams, product teams, marketing teams, sales teams. It's so important in my job to listen to what's being said, as from there, I can align what I have and my skill sets to help elevate them in the work that they do. So similar to that pain point and solutions fit, I want to, as a marketer in the tech space, make sure I'm always listening and providing useful support. And lastly, it's important to understand what makes me stand out. So celebrating my, if you would call it, differentiators, and owning what makes you you, what makes me me. These could be, you know, maybe my growth opportunities or any sort of bugs or minimal viable skill sets that I still need to work on. It's important to provide an honest value proposition about what you bring to the table and what you want to improve over time. So I think it's a great framework for product launches, but also can help you really think about the support and motivations of working in B2B SaaS marketing. So that's it for me today. Thanks so much for the time. It's exciting to be here. Feel free to connect with me, and looking forward to the next presentations.
Brilliant. Are there any questions for Monica? I'm just being bombarded with paper and everything. Okay, so if there's no questions, next up is Agnes, if you're ready.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't actually have any slides, so I'm just going to be speaking. I hope that's all right.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
okay. Okay. Yeah, so first I just wanted to comment that I guess that the way the speakers has been ordered is quite nice, because in the second half, I think myself, Anna, and Catherine are all going to be talking about new experience, with Anna starting out as engineering director, and Catherine about first few months as digital product manager. So my talk is about learning in public and tech communities. So I'm my name is Agnes, and I'm actually career switching to software development. And I started to learn to code at the beginning of this year after building my own PC. And I'm switching from the environmental sector, and I've also got a degree in physics. And thanks very much, Ilesh, for organizing this panel, and to the speakers as well. So I'm going to be talking a bit about how like my learning journey, and also how I got started with social media, and also about linking tech communities and learning in public. To me, these two are very much intertwined. And I think this also connects with the theme of this panel, which is women and gender minorities in tech. Because I think if you're a minority in tech, I think it's really powerful to then seek out people like you who are also working in the sector. And that's so much easier to do on social media platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter, where you've got access to people all over the world. And you can easily find other women in tech or LGBTQI people in tech. And I think that really helps with imposter syndrome, when you can see people with your similar identity to you who are further ahead, and you can share ideas with these people and support each other. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking from the perspective of someone who's new to learning to code and new to social media, and I think that's important as well, that we also hear from people as they're on the way, not just people who are already in a position where they have quite a large following and already have careers in tech. So hopefully you can get something from this talk, even if you're just starting out, or perhaps if you've already have been in the career for a while as well. So first off, I want to just dispel 3 misconceptions about social media in tech. One is that social media is only for people who want to get a really large following and who want to just 100% focus on social media. I think it's rather than the numbers, it's more about who you connect with and the relevance of those people to your field, and also how you can then grow and develop those connections, and sharing experiences as you go. And there's plenty of people who just day by day share what they're doing, and it's not about just getting as many followers as possible. The second misconception is that you should only share things when you get to the point where it's just perfect, completely polished, 100% how you want it. I think this is often a barrier that stops people from posting and sharing about what they're doing, because they're worried that someone's going to come back and say, hey, that thing that you shared, it's not perfect, there's this or there's that problem with it. Actually, like sharing your work as you go along, or sharing a finished product and maybe getting some criticism or feedback, I think it's all part of a learning process, because if you do get feedback, then you'll come away knowing something that you didn't know before. And although, of course, it's the internet, someone might be unkind. If anyone is unkind, I think it's healthy to view that as their problem and not your problem. And the final misconception I want to talk about is that social media is somehow extra work on top of and separate to learning, like learning to code. I think while sometimes, yes, it does take time to do, I think viewing it as entirely separate to learning is maybe not the right way to view it, because I think it's something that can really enrich your learning experience, because you're able to share ideas with others and perhaps learn about new resources and shortcuts, and you can actually really accelerate your learning by doing that. So it's not this extra chunk of time that you devote on top of your learning. I think it can actually really help you with the learning journey as well. So a little bit about how I got started with social media and my learning journey. So I started learning with Free Code Camp, which is just a free online resource. And then more recently now I'm part of Manchester Codes, and that's a Bay 4 bootcamp. Sorry, just to check, do I need to make my screen bigger so that people can see, or I'm not sure if it's displaying okay?
I think it's okay.
It's okay, cool, carry on.
Yeah.
So yeah, initially I was very much, I wasn't really someone who was posting a lot and sharing a lot on social media. I was more of a lurker, just kind of consuming the content other people putting out there. But I knew that if I wanted to try to really have a go at the career switch into tech, that it's going to be really important to have that online presence and that online profile and build those connections with people. So I went out of my way to go to in-person events and go to talks about social media, and kind of really sort of try to absorb advice and tips that people had about best ways to get started. And that was really useful to get out from behind my screen, just learning and just actually go and meet people and learn. So I initially started with LinkedIn, and I just had a go at writing different types of posts. I would often also just write little summaries of events that I'd been to, and just try to connect with people local to me in the Manchester tech scene, and then also widen that depending on which event I was able to go to. And I really try to also tailor my feed and follow and connect with women in tech and gender minorities in tech, and that was really useful also to build up my confidence. So as I sort of grew with LinkedIn, I was able to sort of share my learning and sort of get regular engagement. And I don't want to sort of I'm not, I don't have like thousands of followers or anything. It's more just that the level I do have, it's really nice that I can like share something and I can then get feedback, and there's that engagement with people there. So next I started with Twitter, and I actually found this more difficult than LinkedIn, because on Twitter, if you start with 0 followers at the beginning, it's a little bit different. But with LinkedIn, if you connect with someone, then they become your follower, you become their follower. But on Twitter, of course, if you follow a different account, that account doesn't then automatically follow you unless they choose to. So I think at the beginning with Twitter, I was struggling a bit, sort of finding ways to actually like share what I was doing. But I managed to do 100 days of code, but I'm still in the progress of doing that, and that was a really useful way of getting consistency and also of connecting with people and finding other users. And then over time, I found like a nice little community on Twitter as well. And I realized that people actually were curious about getting started on LinkedIn. And I was able to help some of those people and give some advice about how to get started with LinkedIn and put some tips out there. So even just at the kind of point where I'm at, which is not, it's just sort of intermediate, I guess, I've still seen quite a lot of benefits from starting out and from posting and sharing. So one benefit is getting visibility and my profile built up and having like a live CV. And I actually found that I would go to these real life tech events and the online presence. They kind of were able to interconnect. So I would go to tech events in Manchester, and it can be quite intimidating when you don't know anyone in the room. But I actually recognized some people that I'd interacted with online and was able to start conversations with them. And those people, that then led to being able to widen my community online and also in real life. And I think that's quite a nice way of being able to network using both the online platforms and in person as well. And I also managed to get some opportunities I wouldn't have otherwise, or wouldn't have even known about otherwise. And the next benefit, I don't actually hear people talk about this one that much, but writing about my regularly writing about my learning and my experiences online and sharing it, that really made me sort of reflect on my own experiences. And when it came to the point where I was writing applications and sitting in interviews, and I would get asked a behavioral question maybe that I wasn't expecting, I had all that bank of experiences that I'd written about, and writing about it made it easier to sort of draw on those experiences and talk about them with confidence. So what do we actually mean by learning in public? So it can be just as simple as keeping a public learning journal and just sharing the topics and concepts that you're learning about. It can be sharing the projects that you're building, like screenshots and short videos of what you're building. It doesn't have to be complete. It's just, you can just be sharing what you're doing at that particular point in time, and sharing any insights, ideas, or reflections about your own learning, and giving and getting feedback with other people online. So, and the benefits of this are you can have accountability, and that can lead to sort of consistency. You can learn from other people and find out about different resources and approaches. And this online community can be particularly useful if you're not part of a bootcamp, if you're self-taught, so that you're not just learning in isolation, you're actually connecting with people while you're learning. It's also a great record for you to look back at of what you've accomplished, and it gets you thinking and reflecting about your learning process. So briefly, at the start, I touched on how learning in public and tech communities, they're intertwined together. I kind of view it as every person who's sort of sharing their content online, your learning experience, you're kind of like a little small node with a community. You kind of develop this mini community around you of people that are interested in engaging with what you're writing about. And that really helps with, I guess if you're one of your reasons for doing it is accountability, that helps with those people then keep you accountable in your learning process. And as well as these various loose communities that interact with each other, you also have more concretely formed communities on Discord and Slack channels where people find shared interests or shared identities, and they are able to sort of form these separate communities. And if you're online, if you're in on social media long enough, you'll kind of find out about these if one of them would be a good fit for you. And it's a great, it's in with these communities, often they're women in tech or career in tech, and that's like a really good way to sort of find people that you have things in common with, and it's like the sort of more free and open spaces to share ideas and connect. I'm just going to finish off with a few short tips. So for Twitter, I would recommend following the hashtag 100 days of code, and you tweet about every day that you're learning to code. Just a note on mental health for that one. It doesn't have to be every single day. You're in control of when you want to share. It's also really important to look after your own well-being. But that's a good one to start with, because there's a few people who follow the hashtag, and also different bots retweet the hashtag. So even if you don't have any followers at all at the beginning, if you are just doing one tweet a day with what you're learning, that then gets like shared beyond your sort of immediate network to other people as well. It's just a good way to sort of connect with people. Next little quick tip is to write from your own experience. Yes, there are several topics that have been written about multiple times online. It's really difficult at this point to find something genuinely new, but what is new is your own perspective on a particular topic, and that's always going to be valuable to other people out there. And lastly, just the emphasis on the social part of media, that it's about interacting with others, and that if you do want to have a go at it, to also comment and engage with other people instead of just putting your own material out there. And if you do that, that will also be much more rewarding. And yeah, I just wanted to anyone who's listening who maybe hasn't started yet or is thinking about it, I just want to recommend to, if you can, to like push past that sort of fear of posting and to have a go. Okay, thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Agnes, for sharing that. There's some really good sort of like tips out there as well. And I think you see a lot in sort of like the social media now, where people are posting more journeys and their sort of technical sort of things that they're looking at, and then you start seeing more and more of those popping up from the same person, and then you can see that they're doing their kind of journal out there, and people have actually got jobs through just that kind of mechanism rather than applying jobs directly. So yeah, I got one question I posted on there was like some of the do you have like some of the sort of like difficulties that you face when switching to a tech development sort of career from what you were doing before? Like what kind of things actually were in your back of your mind thinking, oh, maybe that's going to be quite tricky?
Well, I guess one is just the sort of sheer quantity of what we need to learn, and initially it was quite difficult to navigate that and to sort of isolate and find out what is important for me to learn right now at this stage. I think now that I'm enrolled on a bootcamp course, that part is easier. But at the beginning, it was just really difficult for me to sort of figure out, is this something that is even feasible for me to do? I guess I'm in my 30s, and yeah, I at first I just had to do a bit of research to find out, like, can you actually make this career switch? And I talked to some of my friends who had already made the career switch, and they gave me some advice, and also spoke to other women in tech, and I think that really helped me sort of make my mind up and helped me form some kind of perspective as well on the whole career transition.
Nice. Yeah. I think there's no like age limit of switching, because you see lots of other people making switches, and it doesn't matter how old you are, it's never too late to really learn and make that switch. There's another question on the chat, which is, what have you enjoyed most about learning to code?
I guess, well, one of the things is when you're really sort of stuck on something and then suddenly it clicks into place and you're able to kind of solve the issue. That's one of the benefits, but also just the connections that I've made with people, and just I think I'm also just really enjoying the process of learning.
Yeah, because that's quite important. I've just added another one on there, which is like, what's your sort of direction? Are you more going to be focusing on front end or back end or both? Yeah,
I'm probably going in the direction of front end, but I think also it's a bit early for me to tell. I'm the course I'm doing initially, we have been doing front end, and then we're going to be doing back end, and then delving a bit more deeply into front end, and then doing sort of few full stack apps. So I think it's something that at the moment leaning towards front end, but I'm very open-minded to that changing as I learn more.
Yeah, sounds good. Another question on there is there a platform or website that you can recommend to use to perform learning or learning to code?
Thank you for asking that. So I think this is, I think it very much depends on your own learning style, and you might need to try a few and see what fits best for you. I really like, if you're thinking of free resources, I really like Free Code Camp, because it gets you coding straight away in the browser, and it clearly goes through the curriculum step by step, and there's a clear pathway. I know other people have enjoyed, have done Code Academy, or there's the Odin project as well, and I know there's also 100 Devs, which is like a learning program with classes that's completely free that people follow. So I think there's a few free resources, but I think it's something that you have to kind of try yourself and see what works best for you.
Yeah, that's definitely correct. Like, I'll put a link in there from a recent meetup that we did. That was how to become a developer, and there's some tips on there as well. Add to Agnes's comments as well. Cool. I guess there's no more. There's not any more questions. So I think thank you, Agnes. Thank you for going through the journey. And next up, we've got Katherine. So Katherine, just give us a shout when you're ready to roll.
Oh, thank you, Ilesh. Let me just share my screen. Hopefully you can all see that okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to talk about getting started in project management. So just a little bit about me. I'm a senior project manager at MMT Digital. I've been in project management for about 8-9 years now. I actually started my career at MMT Digital, and then I moved away to gain some more experience in a few other agencies, and then I came back at the end of last year. So really good to be back at MMT and continuing my development there. So just a bit about what I'm going to cover this evening. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got into project management, what a project manager actually does day to day, and talk around what to do if you want to get into project management yourself, whether you are looking to move careers or whether you are starting out as a graduate, coming straight from either college or university, and wondering what to do as the next steps in your career. I've also put together some useful resources, which I'll talk around at the end as well. So for me, I came into project management straight out of uni. I was a history student. I had no tech background whatsoever. I also don't think I even really knew what I wanted to do as a career, and kind of fell into the project management role. I had no real experience in project management. I'd done some event organisation and management at university, but nothing really that kind of would translate elsewhere over to project management. I joined MMT actually in a joint role. So I was in an office manager and trainee project manager role, which was actually a really, really good experience because I got to understand kind of how the office was run, how the business was run, as well as learning the project management side. And I got to know everyone across the business as well, which was actually super useful for transitioning into a project management role. So I was learning kind of about the business side as well as the tech side. So just covering kind of what is a typical day in the life of a project manager. So I'd probably say there isn't really a typical day in the life of the project manager. One of the reasons why I love the role is because it's so varied and there is no typical day. My mornings usually start with daily stand-ups, as we work in an agile environment. So we do a daily update at the start of the day with each of the teams that I work with. But after that, it can vary with lots of different tasks. So some typical tasks working as a project manager. So there's a lot that the team that you're working with will see, so such as facilitating meetings, managing the project requirements and the priorities, and kind of helping the teams to problem solve and remove any blockers. I do often actually get a bit of surprise from the developers sometimes if we go to like an all-day session with the client, how much the project managers do outside of just the bits that they see day to day, so the facilitating meetings, and that kind of support, general support for the team as well. So there's some obvious stuff in here. So planning and scheduling, which you'd expect for a project manager to do. We also manage all the billing and finances. Some roles go as far as producing contracts as well. I've done that in the past. At the moment, my role is kind of to make sure that we're meeting what's in the contract rather than actually writing the contracts themselves. And also lots of client management, so lots of meetings in my diary, making sure that the client's happy, making sure that we're planning the next steps of the project, and also covering any risks and working through those with the client to make sure that we can find solutions and remove any potential blockers down the road on the projects. The scope can get a bit wider than this as well. This is kind of the typical day-to-day stuff. I tend to get involved in a lot of things because I love to learn, and I really enjoy kind of learning about the tech side as well. So for me, as I said, I had no technical background at all, but something that I've done right from the very start of my career is ask a lot of questions and want to understand that detail of the tech side. So I was actually able to use that to kind of support some of my clients more. So fairly early on in my career, I got involved in kind of understanding how CMSs work a bit better. And so some of the additional work that I actually took on was helping clients manage some of the content support and planning side of the project operations. And also training clients on how to use the CMS, because I managed to get myself to a level where I understood that enough to then be able to train clients and work through any questions that they had with them as well, and put together training packages to make sure that the clients had everything they need once their projects were launched and they were kind of doing the content entry more on their own. It does vary as well from kind of different job roles. I've had job roles where I've had a more typical project manager role, so covering the more standard stuff that project managers do, but also working in certain environments. You might also have kind of a bit of a dual role as a project manager, where you're expected to step into what's known as more of a product owner role as well, so actually developing those requirements out. That's something that I've really enjoyed doing because I like the detail, but it does make the job as a project manager quite hard because you're doing almost two roles effectively, instead of just your normal project management day job, so it makes it a little bit challenging. So if you want to be a project manager, again, whether you're coming into this from a career change, where exactly do you start? So as I said, like, I started from nowhere. Something that people say to me a lot is, oh, I'm not technical, I couldn't possibly do what you do. My answer to that is absolutely you can. You've got to start from somewhere. You've got to learn from somewhere, and it's okay to not know the tech side. You can learn that on the job. You get to know that as you go through. Think about the skills and experience that you do have. So whether that's from a different role. So for example, someone I was talking to recently is a teacher and they're looking to come across into project management. So something that she has to work through all the time is lesson planning and mapping out kind of courses for her students, so she can bring that skill across into project planning and relate that skill there. So having a think about some of the skills and experience that you do have, even if you're coming straight from uni, think about your extracurricular activities, the stuff that you've done in your courses at uni or at college, or if you've got a completely different role, thinking about how that could come across to what a project manager would do day to day. Doing some research and understanding basic terminology for project management kind of terms, so like agile project management, waterfall project management, that kind of thing, and understanding what's within those. For example, like running daily stand-ups, so your daily catch-up at the start of the day, is really useful, particularly if you're going for an interview. So having that basic knowledge is really helpful. I actually didn't when I went for my project management interview, and I did get the job, but I understood enough. But though I did actually get asked the question on my very first project management interview, like, what is the difference between waterfall project management and agile project management? And I just was honest and said, I don't know. And that was okay. And I did get the job, so it was fine. So something that I always suggest is if you can take a course to gain some knowledge and understanding of project management as well, it just puts you ahead of other people. Appreciate that there is also a cost element to that as well. There are some free things out there, but a lot of the project management courses can be quite expensive. So it's, you know, great if you can do it, but also don't worry too much if it's something that you can't to transition, but it's super useful to at least do some research and learning outside of that. Consider some work experience as well. So most of the agencies that I've worked with will do a couple of weeks work experience for students or for people that are looking to change careers. They might not necessarily advertise it on their website, so it is worth reaching out and just asking the question. There's also kind of placements that you, like internships and placements that you can look for as well that do get advertised around. So it's always worth having a look to see if there's any experience you can gain there. Definitely showing willingness to learn is really useful. I've been very lucky over the years in my career, and I still do this now. If there's something that I want to learn, I'll sit down with people and ask questions and ask them if they're okay to show me something, because I'd like to understand it better. And more often than not, people are more than willing to share what they're working from and walk you through what they've been doing so that you get a better understanding. So definitely ask questions. I think sometimes I probably ask too many questions, but I'm always wanting to learn and improve and make sure that I can do the best job that I can do in my role. If you are looking to start out, there's a range of opportunities for kind of going into the project management area. So there's junior project management roles, so you can start right at the bottom and work your way up. There's project officer roles, like junior project officer roles and things like that as well. Account executive are also options, or general office-based roles are good to gain experience. From a career perspective with the project management, there's lots of opportunities. So obviously you can work your way up the project management ladder, so become a senior project manager and then work your way up to product or program management. But there's also the account management route as well. I've actually been down the account management route a little bit in one of my roles. I decided it wasn't particularly for me, but some people find that they actually love the account management side more, so they tend to go down that route and go down like an account manager, director, and then work their way up to a client services role that way. There's definitely lots of opportunities out there if you look for them, but I definitely recommend doing as much learning as you can while you're looking to do that transition. So I put together a couple of really useful resources that I found really helped me, and hopefully they'll help some of you if you're looking to get into project management as well. So there's the Digital Project Manager website. So this is a paid for service now, but they also have some really good free content. I'm a big podcast fan. I love listening to a podcast in the car, particularly if I'm driving a long way to a client meeting. I usually have a podcast on in the car while I'm going. So the Digital Project Manager website, they do a great podcast. They have some really fantastic guests on there, and it's definitely worth a listen if podcasts are your thing. Another one I'd recommend is the Winging It podcast. So this is run by a lady who owns an agency called Sassy Digital. And again, she has some really great great guests on her podcast, and she also goes through the ups and downs of agency life, and starting out her own agency and her own kind of side businesses as well off the back of that. And then a couple of general agile ones. So the Scrum Alliance has some great resources that you can look up on there. And if you're looking for kind of a particular agile course, then the Agile 8 courses are brilliant. I've been on one myself and it was absolutely fantastic couple of days. And I learned an awful lot. And it was a great intro into Scrum project management. So I definitely recommend that if it's something that you're able to do. So a few key takeaways. Everyone has to start somewhere. As I said, you don't need a tech background. That's something that you can learn if you're prepared to put in the work to do it and ask questions. And don't be afraid of asking questions. Don't be afraid of making mistakes or admitting that you don't know something. Even to a client, like if they ask you a technical question and you don't know the answer, that's okay. You can go and talk to your team and come back to them. I do often see that sometimes people panic a little bit when they don't know the answer, but it's absolutely fine to admit that you don't know something. Something that I often kind of see as well with people coming, people wanting to kind of progress in their careers is tending to go for the bigger companies, but actually don't write off the small ones. I've learned so much working in a smaller agency previously, because you get to experience different aspects of the business. You actually get to kind of dip your toe into different roles as well, because you have to cover for people. Particularly one company I worked for, I was the only kind of project manager, so I kind of got to work across a load of different accounts, and it was brilliant. I got to work kind of on the social media side, the SEO side, and the website side. So it gave me a huge foundation to kind of build on, and taught me an awful lot. Something that I used to really struggle with as well is interviews. I used to hate interviews, but something that a previous manager told me was that you need to remember when you're doing an interview that you're getting to know the company as well as much as they're getting to know you. So it's a two-way process, and that actually stopped me being quite so scared of interviews, and I actually started to kind of enjoy them, and it made me a little bit more decisive about what I was looking for with the company as well. It kind of got me thinking about that. So that's definitely something, particularly to anyone kind of transitioning careers or starting out as a project manager. Don't be afraid of the interview because it's something different. And that's it from me. Any questions?
Thank you, Catherine. That's really good, useful stuff. There's two questions in the chat. So the first one is, would you look to change your sort of career from a project management role to a more technical role now you're learning a bit more on the technical side of stuff?
At the moment, no. I enjoy the project management side a little bit too much. So I enjoy kind of seeing that kind of project from end to end. Probably if I was going to consider going down that route, it would be something like a technical product manager role. Simply because, like, while I've made myself like a little bit more technical, I wouldn't say I'm super technical. I'm not sure my brain would work quite the right way for coding. I can do a little bit of HTML, but that's kind of as far as I've got. But I do find like understanding the requirements and breaking down those requirements really interesting. And it is something that I have done in a previous role where we didn't have a product owner in the business, and I did actually really enjoy doing it. So that's, if I was going to go down any route, that would be the route I'd go.
Okay, nice. And then I guess, like, in a typical sort of project management role, what sort of platforms do you guys use? Yeah.
So in terms of kind of day-to-day management in our role.
Yeah.
So my career has been a bit of a mixture. It started out as predominantly spreadsheets. I still do love a good spreadsheet for things, but mostly these days I use things like Jira and ADO for project management, and then kind of for scheduling. I've used different tools for that, but currently using a tool called Mavenlink, but I've also used really good tools such as Forecast in the past for doing that.
Great. Cool. Thank you, Catherine. I think there's no more questions. And thank you for presenting. So next up, we've got Anna.
Yes, hello, there we go. I think my mic is working now. Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen. Make sure I'm sharing the right one. Here we go. You can see my presentation. Yep, great. Okay, cool. This is the first time I'm using Keynote and I'm really tired, so I'm really hoping nothing horrible goes wrong. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna McDougall. I'm an engineering director. It's really weird for me to say still. It's only been 2 months in my role. This is my building, so as you can see, it's pretty awesome. And this is, I work for Axel Springer, which is like the biggest news media publishing house in all of Germany. As you can tell, I'm not German, I'm Australian. But yes, I've been living in Germany for about almost 7 years now. So this is, where I've been working for the last 2 months. I actually work for a subsidiary of Axel Springer, which is called National Media and Tech. And I'm one of 6 directors of product and engineering on that team. So when Ilesh approached me and said, hey, can you talk tonight? I have like heaps of talks that I often do about like careers, and I've just written a book about how to transition into tech. So I think, Agnes, I'm gonna talk to you because I would love to send you a copy. And it's like I've got all these talks that I can do, but I thought, like, why not talk about what I've been doing for the last 2 months and like cover some stuff that I don't normally talk about. So who am I? As a kid, I was really into computers. I was into a lot of stuff. I've always been kind of a Jill of all trades. I'm interested in everything. I love drama. I love singing. I love computers. I loved languages. I loved writing. So I loved heaps of things. So I ended up actually doing a bachelor's in media and communication, so in journalism and Spanish and Latin American studies. And I worked as a kind of project manager and digital marketing for a while, and then decided to do my first big career change, which was to become an opera singer. So I actually did my Masters of Music in Sydney at Sydney Conservatorium, and then I moved to Germany to try to find work as a singer. I did that very successfully, actually. So in total, I worked 7 years. I was an opera singer for 7 years. I sang in 3 different continents. It was a great job. But when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had this thing where I was like, do I want to do this for my whole life? Auditions are soul destroying. It's a really hard industry. Great when you're actually on the stage, don't get me wrong, lots of fun. But you're always the one fighting for work. You're underpaid. It's extremely high quality stuff that you have to produce. We call it the Olympic sport of singing because you basically have to perform at such an incredibly high level, and to have basically very little compensation for that was, it wears on you after 7 years. So then I discovered programming again. So as I said, I'd loved computers as a kid. I'd done a little bit of HTML. I had done some software design at school, but I was always the only girl in the class, and I was good at other stuff. So it just never went anywhere when I was a kid. But as an adult, I was seeing all these ads for software engineers everywhere, and I thought, you know what, like I could do that. Let's go back and try again, and let's see if I still like this. Spoiler alert, I did. Agnes actually mentioned the Odin project before, and that's mostly how I got started. So I did 60 days straight of the Odin project. I just got so in the zone, and I loved it, and I just got so into it. I decided to then do a 1-year course here in Germany. I feel very, very lucky because the German government has this system where if you're unemployed, which I was after my maternity leave, they'll actually sponsor you to do courses, and they'll even pay your jobless benefit at the same time. So essentially I was getting paid to learn software engineering, which was awesome. And again, that went very well, and I got recruited out of that course before it finished and worked as a software engineer for a year. And then after this year of software engineering, I got this message on LinkedIn from a headhunter, and she was like, hi, I'm looking for people who are passionate about tech, who are interested in a director level position. And I was like, lol. Like, why are you messaging me? I've been in tech for like a year. I was an opera singer before. Like, what are you talking about? And it turns out that what they wanted was actually someone who understood tech and was passionate about tech and could learn tech, and who was a technical person, but who was also good at speaking on stages, who was passionate about diversity, who really wanted to be a pusher of change, or driver. I think they call it driver, but I always think of it as pusher, as a driver of change. And so then put in that context, and admittedly, and also, as I mentioned, for a major publishing company, tech company. And since then, when I got that information, I was like, oh, wait, you're serious? Because I have like this journalism degree. I've worked on a stage for 7 years, and I consider myself now a technical person. So actually, rather than actually coming from 1 year of experience, which is how I originally approached this conversation, turns out I was working with 13 years of experience. So I was like, oh, okay, this is actually a thing I could achieve. So I had originally said, no, come back to me in 5 to 10 years. But then she said, just read the job description. Let's see how it goes. And I was like, oh, this could actually be a thing. And so I managed to actually double my income after only 1 year in tech. And I'm now earning 6 figures, which in Europe is really impressive. And I only mention that because I think we don't talk about money enough, especially as women. And so I want to just put it out there that this is something I'd never expected to happen. And somehow this background in things that are completely different from tech ended up pushing me up into this position of director, product and engineering, projects and organization. It's such a long title. It's really very silly. But anyway. And then the other thing I did is I wrote a book. I mentioned that before. I've got a cute little screenshot at the end about it, so we can talk about that later. So what is this lesson? This is the first lesson that I want to kind of share with you, is say yes, turn up. So I could have, after she shared that with me, thought, you are like, this is ridiculous. Me as a director, 1 year of experience, no, I could have blocked it off. I could have just said, that's nice, see you later. Nice of you to think of me, but no, but I didn't. I said, yes, let's try it. Like, let's have the conversation. Let's see what happens. And then I turned up, of course. I turned up to the interviews, but on top of the interviews, I also turned up in terms of preparation, right? So when I say turn up, I don't mean like just be there. Like, that's already great, but like turn up and like already be a little bit ahead of it, And so that's what I did. I did a lot of research on the company. I did a lot of research on similar roles that I could find, and I came in already knowing a lot of their lingo. So like, for example, we have a website called Autobild, it's a magazine about cars, it's German, so Auto. And so after some research, I knew that they called it, instead of Autobild, they always called it Albi, because they had another one called Computer Build that they called Corby. And so I turned up into that interview and I'm like, oh yes, so-and-so who's in charge of Albi Corby. And they were like, whoa, you already know like the lingo. And so little things like this can really make a big difference. But just saying yes to opportunities and just showing up and being ready for them in those moments, you're already ahead of 95% of people, because so many people say no to things because they put themselves out. They say, no, I can't do that. No, I'm not ready. And by saying no, you're closing off that opportunity completely. By saying yes, there's still a window. There's still a window of opportunity. And it might be that in the end, it doesn't go anywhere. But as I said, you're ahead of 95% of people if you just say yes to things that people offer you. So be a yes person. So then I'll move on to my next kind of big learning thing. I feel very thankful. I have a great boss. So my CTO is my direct manager, and he kind of said, look, for your first 100 days, just get to know the company. Don't try to achieve anything. Don't try to be productive. Just see what's happening. Try to understand all of the different stuff that is going on. And I could not be happier that he said that, because I went from feeling like I was in control into being in this environment where I've got the title director, so everyone expects me to be in charge and know what I'm doing, but I'm coming into this massive company that has scale, like it has more scale, more size, more complexity than anything I've ever done before. I mentioned here the technical breadth, like you can just see some of the areas that my company works with. We work with artificial intelligence and machine learning. We work with data. Both of those I have never touched before as an engineer. Web I have done. Ideas engineering is like this innovation hub that we have. It's amazing. But I've never done anything like that before either. We have advertising department that runs advertising tools and analysis. Never done that before. And editorial tools, which are like software for the journalists to use to enter their articles into the website. And it was a very intimidating thing to walk into. So I couldn't have been happier when he said, just give it 100 days to get to know it. And now I'm, as I said, about 60 days, 65 days in, and I'm feeling like, okay, I'm starting to get it now, which is very nice. And feeling like once we get to those 100 days, like I'll be good, I'll be ready to go. And one of the things that has been the most intimidating about that is the autonomy. Like I have, as I said, I'm at this director level, the only person who I report to is the CTO of the company. And he's a busy man. Like he doesn't he doesn't need me like knocking on his door 5 times a day asking what I should do next. It's up to me. So he said, look, this is a new position. We know vaguely what we want you to do with it, but how you do it is up to you. And on the one hand, that creates an amazing opportunity, right? I can walk in and be like, okay, I've got responsibilities for getting to know all these projects, for improving diversity for my technical staff, for helping other people feel more confident and comfortable on stage and getting them to events. This is awesome, but no one is like holding my hand and telling me how to do it. So on the one hand, great, I have all this freedom, but on the other hand, it's like, it can feel very wild and there's so many thoughts just swimming around in my head. And so like the big thing, it should be really obvious, but it's something that I'm still not great at, even to this day, is keeping notes. So in the end, what it all comes down to is people, right? And you're at a director level, any sort of leadership position, honestly, it's about connecting people. You get to know as many people as you can. And my job as a leader is to lead. And what is leadership? I don't believe it's about telling people what to do. I believe it's about connecting dots. And I believe it's about connecting people to other people so that they can do their jobs in the way they really need to. But the only way you can do that is if you actually remember who everyone is. And as much as I love to think that I have this amazing memory, I really don't. And so I do need to keep notes. It can be a little bit awkward in conversations to keep notes while someone's talking to you, but I've learned just to say at the beginning of a coffee meeting, for example, hey, just so you know, since I'm getting to know everyone, I want to make sure I don't miss anything. I might just take a few notes as we go, just so you know that's what I'm doing. I'm not on Facebook or whatever. And usually they're really cool with that. But yeah, I do have to be more conscious about it. And this, I have to say, this slide is something that I'm still trying to like hammer into my own brain and something I'm definitely going to keep working on because I think it's a weak point for me. I mentioned before, like this autonomy, double-edged sword. It's the same with the opportunities. So as I say, I've got presentations, diversity, inclusion, this coaching side of things. I'm also going to be coding in projects so that I get to know them really well because I need to understand the technical side of what we do super well. It's hard though. Like this is a scheduling issue, right? Like on the one hand, I need to have dedicated time to kind of get into the coding mindset because as anyone here who has done coding knows or programming knows, you do need a certain level of focus to achieve that. But at the same time, I need to be creating presentations. I need to be keeping an eye on everything that's happening in the company. For example, we've actually got people in culture. They work mostly with diversity and inclusion initiatives. My job is more to like be the guide between those initiatives and the technical leadership and the technical teams. So I'm not actually like leading a lot of those initiatives, but I have to know about everything that's happening. So I have to be in a lot of meetings, you know, that's what it comes down to. And then coaching, like actually helping people. So how do I prioritize these things when you have what is presumably like 3 or 4 areas of responsibility? How do I choose what is most important? Like clashes happen and it can be very hard. The other problem is distraction. As I mentioned before, there are always projects you like more or less than other things, or people you want to talk to more or less than other people. And it can be very hard to kind of stay on track. And of course, it's just a scheduling and organizational issue. I said I don't have an advice on this. This is something where I feel like you just have to like manage your calendar and try to work through it. But I think the thing that's guiding me, the kind of guiding principle I'm using in this scenario, is just to be honest with people. I loved before when it was said like if you don't know something, like just say you don't know it. This goes for technical roles too, and I still use this. You know, if I don't know what a CMS is, I will say, I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. And I try not to put too much thought into whether someone thinks that I'm stupid because of that. Tech is such a huge, ridiculously broad field that you are never, ever expected to know everything. So if you don't know something, I think it's always better to just say, I'm sorry, I don't know. And, or on the other hand, you know, when you've got conflicting meetings or conflicting priorities, again, to just say, look, I really want to meet with you. Unfortunately, I have this other meeting that's just more important, or it's just more time sensitive. Is there any way we can reschedule this? If not, I'll just have to miss it, you know, and you just have to kind of let things go. In the end, this is the inside of the building from the first slide, by the way, in case you wanted to see where the weird glass stuff comes from. In the end, it does all come down to people, and it does all come down to connections. And so, as I said, like being honest, keeping notes, knowing who is who, and trying to connect the dots on who works with what and why. If you can facilitate those connections as a leader, or even just as an engineer in your everyday work, like even if you're just having a coffee with someone and they mention something that another engineer you know is working on, connect to those people. Like these kinds of human connections is what can really drive leadership. And as I said, showing up. This was one of our events called TechCon. It was awesome. Basically, all of the Axel Springer companies got together, and it was just like a massive thing where tech people from something like, I think there were 70 presenters or something, were talking about all of their technical projects, and it was just awesome. And again, it's just about like turning up and being there and being part of everything. The other thing that I want to say is, this is one of my kind of general guiding principles. I hope you've heard it before, but if you haven't, it's ask for forgiveness, not permission. What that means is if you see an opportunity, be it for yourself or for other people or for your project, take it. Take the opportunity, do the thing, like take that initiative. And if it all goes terribly wrong, then say, oh, I thought that was what I was supposed to do, or my bad, or I thought that would have been a good idea, my bad. And usually people will appreciate that. Whereas if you're asking all the time, I feel like a lot of managers in particular, like questions sound like tasks to them, and they don't want any more tasks, so they'll just say no, even though it could be a great idea. So I kind of, this is just a general life principle, but I do believe in general, ask for forgiveness, not permission. Be bold, yeah, say yes, turn up. And these lessons I'm still using in my first 2 months as an engineering director. And as I said, there are still lessons I'm learning, but getting there and hopefully able to bring some value to my company and to my staff, because they're the most important to me. So yes, any questions? And also here's that screenshot. It's just, that's actually from today because my book is being released tomorrow and I'm very excited about it. So yes, any questions at all, please feel free to ask. Thank you. And follow me on Twitter.
Yeah. There is a question on the chat. So is there a particular platform or method that you use to keep notes on? And I'll give you the second question in a minute. Yeah.
No. This is actually something where maybe I should throw it back to the chat if anyone has any good suggestions, because I literally just open up the notes app. I just have like a long list of my notes. They're not connected in any wonderful way. I tried Notion for a while. I don't know. Maybe it's me being like an old Betty, but I couldn't like work out how it was any easier than just like a Word document or something. So for me, I steered away from that. So for me, I just use notes. But I've heard Evernote is good. I might give that a try. But I'm open to ideas if anyone has suggestions, because I'm terrible at note taking and I'm very open to improvement in that area.
Yeah, it's interesting that you tried Notion and others and still go back to notes, which is
yeah. Well, to be fair, I learned HTML back when you had to write HTML into Notepad and like just save it as a .html file. And so I think like maybe I'm just like defaulting to my childhood state and like using the simplest program possible.
Yeah, you can build a website with Notepad. So
absolutely, yeah, absolutely you can, yeah.
Definitely. So next question was, what percentage of your time roughly is expected to be coding in this new role?
Yeah, great question. It's up to me. So again, like this is totally up to me how much time I use. I'm actually about to start on my first project coding actively on Monday, and what I've blocked is 9:30 till 12 from Monday to Friday. So I would say that's about 30%. I think about 30% of my time, maybe 35. I'm going to try that. It's very early on in my time with the company, of course, so I don't know if that's going to work. But generally, I found most of my more, let's say, high-level strategic meetings, they tend to be scheduled more in the afternoons. So it kind of made me think, okay, I can do it in the morning, then that way I can go to daily, and I can just like have a few hours kind of blocked out. So that's how I'm going to try to do things. It's very important to me, because I am relatively new to the engineering side, that if I'm going to have the title of director, product and engineering, that I actually know something about engineering. So I knew if I didn't insist during the interview process that I get to continue to code, I knew that my skills wouldn't stay sharp, I wouldn't improve as a programmer, and therefore I wouldn't really know what I was talking about. And that's super important to me. I don't want to ever be a bullshitter. I want to always talk from a place of experience and truth. And so if I'm going to be on stage talking about tech projects that my company is doing, I want to actually understand what's happening in those projects. So it's important for me to dedicate a good amount of time to it. But on the other hand, it's not actually the core of my job. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But that's the plan so far anyway.
Nice. Because it's good to have like the control of what you could do in your own role. That's like perfect, right? That's what you should.
Yeah, and it was great as well that was said before, like in the interview process, to like interview them as well. And I totally agree, because like I was given weirdly at a motorcycle riding lesson. Anyway, it's a long story, but someone said to me, treat a job interview as a business meeting. You have needs as an employee, they have needs as an employer. Can your needs meet? If so, let's negotiate a price, and then let's move from there. And I think that's super important to view interviews as like a business meeting or as a business negotiation. And that's what I did. Like when I went into those interviews, you know, they were there looking for someone to just be on stage and work on diversity. And that's great. Like I'm happy to do that stuff. I love that stuff. But I knew for me, it was crucial. Like I couldn't do that job properly unless I was also coding. So I said to them, I need this to be part of my job. And luckily they were cool with that. So it worked out.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. There's one question on there, which I think additionally to that is to do with your book.
Yeah, great.
Is it on Amazon? I guess if there's any links that you can put either in the chat or wherever.
Yes, I can. Let me actually stop sharing, and then I can find it for you, because I have 3 screens. So you would think I'd worked it out by now, but I have not. It's so funny because I often find this is the case. I don't know if you guys agree with me or if you all agree with me, but I often find that software engineers are somehow also terrible at using software, like other people's software. And we have so many tech problems. There we go. Okay, I've got it there. So the Kindle pre-order is already available. There will also be a hard copy. So you saw in the photo that I was holding up the hard copy. Actually, I've got it here. I can do like the proper little presentation. Oh, it's kind of, yeah, there we go. So there will be a hard copy. It looks like this. It's 243 pages long. It's very nice. Toot toot. But it's been approved by Amazon, but it hasn't been released on Amazon yet. So it should be released either over the weekend or on Monday. So if you want a hard copy, just wait a few days and then like bookmark it and give yourself a reminder or something, and then you can get it. But otherwise, the Kindle version is already available.
Thank you. And then I don't think there's any more further questions, but I've got a question that I saw you answer somewhere else,
Okay, cool.
which was Oh, there is another question, so I'll ask that. Have you got some productivity tips for personal technical improvements?
Oh, productivity tips for personal technical improvement. I'm not sure I'd call them productivity tips. I guess I have mindset tips. As I said, I don't actually consider myself very good at like organizational side of things, like scheduling, note taking. I actually don't think I'm very good at any of that stuff. It's a real weak point of mine. But what I am very good at is like how to approach problems and how to approach skills. So if you're saying like how can I improve technically, then I think, and how can I improve interpersonally? Then I think the answer is kind of the same, which is that every single skill can be learnt. I don't believe that there are many skills out there that can't be learnt. And it's trial, error, again, just going for things, failing multiple times, being absolutely okay with it, asking loads of questions, and just being open to that cycle. So you try, you fail, you ask the questions, why did it fail? Yeah, and then you try again, rinse and repeat. It's a very kind of like, it's kind of similar if you know about Agile already as a person, then this should sound very familiar to you. But if you don't know what Agile is, don't worry, don't stress. The idea is just to remain flexible, remain open to failure, as long as you can be honest with yourself about why you failed and try to kind of take that constructively. I think a lot of people who get into engineering are very detail-oriented people and often perfectionists, and that's a really dangerous mindset to be in. If you go in trying to improve a skill as a perfectionist, you're going to have a really hard time because it's just not how you learn things. Like you will not get things perfectly the first time. So you have to be able to give and take constructive criticism. And the other big tip I would use in general is to try to do it with people as much as possible. So you're already doing it being here, that's a great start. But also like be on Twitter or find a Discord community, find a local meetup that like is for newbies or not, or find a hackathon or something like that, and just go along and just be honest about what you can and can't do, ask lots of questions, make friends, because I think having people as a resource is it's really good, but it's also super essential, especially if you're going to continue to improve in your career. Basically the higher up you go, the more people skills you need. So you need to build those connections and learn how to work with people, learn how to get the best out of people, and also learn how other people can get the best out of you, how you work the best. Learning those things will all help you learn technical skills and interpersonal skills, I would say. But productivity tips in terms of like organization, I'm useless to you.
Yeah. And I've just got one final question, which is your career switching from operating to sort of development side. And I know you've answered this before in other platforms. But what would you find like the most difficult from the two, like, and more scary, for example?
Between opera and tech. Yeah, 100% opera. I mean, it's so funny. Like it's so funny because when I entered tech, it's like, okay, yes, you have a lot of skills to learn, but every job has a lot of skills to learn, right? Like let's not underestimate most jobs. Like most jobs, there's a steep learning curve and there's a lot there. Like, and you can go as deep as you want. Everything looks simple from the outside, and then the deeper you go, the worse it is. I find that with tech, it's almost the opposite. Like tech from the outside seems super scary and like, oh, you have to be a genius or you have to be like some sort of amazing mathematical brain to work in tech. And it's like, it's not, it's a job like any other. And like any other, you can just apply yourself and learn, and over time you'll get better. And as I said, you'll make mistakes and whatever. But the good thing about tech is that at the end of the day, the work you're doing is pretty relaxing. Like you're sitting at a computer, like you don't really, there's not a lot of physical output having to happen there. There's no one very rarely does it come back onto you emotionally or personally. For example, like if I write shit code, people are just like, why did you write shit code? They're not like, hey, why are you a terrible person? Or like, how come you don't understand empathy? Which is something like you get in opera. Like if you portray a character in a way that you think is correct, people have wildly different ideas about what a character's motivation is on stage. And you can have directors who are just like, why would you ever make that decision? Like, why would you think that this character would be like that? Like, what are you doing? Like, and furthermore, on stage, it's not just a physically difficult job, because it is physically very demanding. You don't just stand there and sing pretty things. In opera, you're moving, you're dancing, you're running around. Some people are up, like hanging upside down. Sometimes you're flying. Sometimes it can be all kinds of different things. And as I said, it's fun, but it's physically demanding. And then on top of that, your voice. I mean, what is more personal in a way than your voice? Like in many ways, it is you. And if you find people who sometimes just don't like your voice, and it's not that you're doing anything wrong, they just don't like it. And that's an extremely hard thing to be told over and over again. No, we won't give you a job because we just don't like you, And I mean, you won't get that in tech, right? In tech, it's very skills based. And you will, of course, obviously there is discrimination still that occurs. Like you do get that side of things, but hopefully not as regularly anymore. I like to think it's getting better and that awareness is growing. But for the most part in tech, when you're being criticized, it's about content. It's about something physical and hard and skills-based that you can analyze. In opera, when you're being criticized, it's about you as a person, or like your voice, or like how you think or how you feel, and that's an incredibly hard thing to deal with. So for me, when I came into tech, and I'm like, there are all these like really relaxing, high-paying jobs, lots of them available, like, and all I need to do is not take code personally. Like, I can do that. Yeah, definitely. I find tech a lot easier. And I mean, obviously my career, I've been in tech for now, 1.5 years, employed in tech for 1.5 years. And I'm earning 3 times what I earned as an opera singer after 7 years. You know what I mean? So, I mean, definitely in that respect as well, money makes things a lot easier. I mean, let's be honest. So yes, I would definitely say tech.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Thank you. So I think there's no more questions. And I just got a couple of few things to say, really. Just want to thank everyone who attended, all the speakers out there. Really appreciate you guys going on the panel. There is the merch. If you guys want to sign up to that, then by all means, it's up to you. Like this, after the meetup closes, you can do that. And I do apologize. I've not shrunken down. It's just that my child is here now sleeping, so he's fallen asleep. So I'm not riding the car or something. But I've just slowly gone down in screen. But yeah, I just really appreciate everyone being on this meetup, and thank you, and have a nice evening or day wherever you are in the world.
Yeah, thank you for organizing everything. I think we all really had a great time. I did.
You're welcome.
Thank you for organizing, and also found everyone that speaks is really inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll share the recording out once it's out. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.